Amara Weston stood at the check-in counter, heart pounding with excitement that barely stayed beneath her calm exterior. Clutched in her hand was a taquita-printed, tangible dream that had once felt as unreachable as the sky itself. It wasn't just a trip to New York. It was a journey toward everything she had worked for, fought for. The Global Aviation Summit awaited her. For a girl born and raised in the poorest quarters of South Haven, this moment was more than symbolic, it was revolutionary. Beside her, Jamal Rivers cracked a smile, nudging her with the elbow. "Careful, Amara," he teased with the warm playfulness only best friends knew how to summon. "Once you're up there, you're probably going to ask to fly the damn plane." She laughed, a light sound that barely masked the nervous undercurrent beneath her steady eyes. "And maybe they'll let me," she quipped. But her hand trembled slightly as she handed over the ticket. She could feel the weight of every pair of eyes in the terminal. The ones that lingered too long. The ones that looked her over and decided something about her, something unspoken, something cold. It wasn't new. The looks, the whispers, the subtle alienation that came with stepping into places where she didn't belong. She'd learned how to wear armor made of silence and grace. She straightened her hoodie, modest and worn but clean, and adjusted her backpack. Her sneakers were scuffed, not from carelessness but from long walks to places where her dreams had to go before she ever could. She smiled politely at the check-in attendant, a blonde woman with a tight bun and an even tighter expression. The name tag read K. Miller. "Flight to New York, please," Amara said softly, placing her ID and ticket on the counter. Karen Miller didn't reply immediately. Her pale blue eyes raked across Amara's outfit, her skin, her presence. There was a pouty pause that carried centuries of judgment, and then, with a deliberately slow flick, she picked up the ticket and tore it in two. The sound was sharp, deliberate, and final. "This ticket's fake," Karen announced, her voice raised to an intentional volume that made the nearby passengers turn. "You don't belong on this flight." Amara froze. Her outstretched hand remained suspended mid-air, fingers curled around nothing, as the remnants of the ticket fluttered to the counter. Her breath caught. Her brain couldn't quite form the words. "What?" she finally choked out. "What did you say?" "That's a real ticket." Karen crossed her arms, her face a picture of condescension. "People like you don't fly business class," she said, each word dripping with venomous implication. The phrase hit Amara like a slap. "People like you." The air around her seemed to grow heavier, and the terminal began to close in. Behind her, a middle-aged man muttered to his wife. "Knew it. They always pull something." A girl nearby stifled a laugh behind her hand, her earbuds still in, but her eyes full of mockery. Amara's chest burned, her throat dry. She couldn't breathe. The humiliation was so sudden, so sharp, she didn't even realize she'd stepped back until Jamal moved in front of her. "She didn't fake anything," he barked, furious. "You tore up her ticket for no reason. That's discrimination." He raised his phone to record, but Karen leaned across the counter and snatched it away, eyes blazing. "You want me to call security?" she hissed. "Don't make this worse." But the damage was already done. Amara looked down at the shredded paper, the symbol of her father's love and sacrifice, and felt something cold grip her chest. But then, from the embers of that pain, a flame rose. "You're wrong," Amara said, her voice shaking but solid. "And I'm going to prove it." Karen's smirk was back. "Go ahead," she said, turning away. "But don't expect to get on this flight." It was then that someone else stepped forward. An elderly woman, dressed in a travel cardigan and practical shoes. Her eyes, kind but fierce, met Amara's. "I saw everything," she said quietly. "Don't give up, child." "Thank you," Amara whispered. Her eyes burned, but she wouldn't let the tears fall. Jamal leaned in. "I saved the video to the cloud before she grabbed the phone," he said. "We're going to show the world." Amara nodded. Her dream was still alive. And now, it wasn't just hers. It was something bigger. They stepped away from the counter. People were still whispering. The judgment still hung in the air. But so did something else resolve. As they sat on a bench near the gate, Amara remembered. She remembered being 8 years old, sitting on the crumbling steps of their little home in South Haven. The other kids played in the streets. She stayed quiet, watching airplanes cut across the sky, too far to touch. "Why can't we go on those?" she asked her father once. Malcolm Weston knelt beside her. Tall, lean, eyes full of wisdom. "One day," he said, "you'll not only be on one, you'll be flying it." He never said he was the founder of Skylinks Air. Never boasted. He wanted her to believe her achievements were hers alone. When she was 10, she found him working late into the night on blueprints and plans. He hid them when she came in. She thought it was just one of his odd jobs. She didn't know he was building an empire in secret, away from the prejudice that tainted his every move. She remembered her mother's final words when she was 13. "Don't stop dreaming, baby," she'd whispered from her hospital bed. "They'll try to break you, but you're meant for the sky." Amara hadn't cried then. But now, in this cold terminal, her mother's words clung to her like a blanket of strength. Jamal sat beside her. "You ready to take this higher?" he asked. "I have to be," she replied. "This isn't just about me anymore." With Miss Linda at their side, they marched to the airport manager's office. Inside sat David Stein, a man who wore his authority like a costume sleek, rehearsed but shallow. Karen was already there, standing proudly with her arms folded, still smug. "I want to report a case of racial discrimination," Amara said evenly. Karen laughed. "Oh, please." She had a fake ticket. Caused a scene. "I was doing my job." Amara pointed at her. "You tore my ticket without scanning it. You assumed." David sighed. "Young lady, I suggest you calm down. You'll be placed on the next flight if you simply apologize." "Apologize?" she gasped. "For being insulted? For being humiliated?" Jamal shouted. "This is racism, plain and simple. I've got all recorded," he added, holding up his backup phone. "You're threatening us now?" Karen snarled. David raised a hand. "Let's all relax. You want evidence?" Jamal said. "That video is going viral. Right now. Justice for Mara is already trending." A knock. An assistant entered. "Sir." There's a crowd forming. Reporters too. Karen's face turned white. Miss Linda stepped forward. "I saw it. That girl had a valid ticket. I was there." David was sweating now. "Check the system," he barked. The assistant returned moments later. Ticket was valid. Business class. Booked under Malcolm Weston. Silence. Cold and absolute. "Malcolm Weston?" David said. "As in the CEO of—" "Yes," Miss Linda interjected. "Her father." The room imploded. Amara felt the breath leave her chest. It wasn't the privilege of being a CEO's daughter. It was the realization that her father had quietly placed the wind beneath her wings for years. A black car pulled up outside. Malcolm stepped out. When he entered the room, the air shifted. "Why was my daughter treated like a criminal?" he asked, his voice calm and lethal. David stuttered. Karen trembled. "She didn't look like someone who belonged in business class," Karen whispered. Malcolm turned to his daughter. "You want to handle this?" he asked. Amara stepped forward. "I don't want her fired just because of who you are. I want her to admit she was wrong." Karen began to cry. "I was wrong. I let prejudice speak for me." "Then change," Amara said, "for the next girl who stands at your counter." Malcolm placed a new ticket in her hand. "This one is for you, but not as a passenger. As a symbol." As they walked back to the gate, reporters swarmed. Malcolm took a mic. "My daughter was judged not for her actions, but for her skin. That ends today. At Skylinks, we're committed to change." He handed the mic to Amara. "I didn't fight for a seat. I fought for dignity. For everyone who's been told they don't belong." Cheers erupted. A week later, Amara walked into the aviation conference. No hoodie, no torn ticket, just a quiet fire in her heart and a prototype for a low-emission aircraft under her arm. When she finished her speech, the applause didn't stop. A woman stepped on stage. Dr. Noelle Carter, lead designer for NASA. "You've just earned yourself a place on our team," she said. Amara couldn't speak. Jamal cheered. Malcolm cried. Miss Linda whispered, "She's flying now." Months passed. Amara launched a youth program in South Haven, teaching underprivileged kids about aviation. One day, she turned to see a familiar face at the door. Karen Miller. Simple clothes. eyes humbled. I want to help, she said. Not to erase what I did, but to learn. Amara paused. Then start folding, she said, handing her a paper airplane. In the back, a girl raised a ticket Amara had given her to an aviation camp. I'm going to fly one day, she declared. You will, Amara smiled. The sky no longer looked so far away. Justice wasn't just punishment. It was ignition. And Amara Weston, once grounded by judgment, now soared beyond clouds, leaving a trail for others to follow.